Welcome to Limitless Fishing. I'm your host, Connor Strong, and today we're heading out into Milford Sound to go and target some puka. This is day one of our Milford trip, and it was insane. I mean, look at that scenery. We're not even on the water yet. As always, get ready for tight lines and good times. Massive shout outs to Finn and Matt Bismarck, because without them, this trip wouldn't have been possible. I mean, we've been planning this all throughout lockdown and isolation, and for it to really just all come together like it has, oh my god, I am feeling so blessed, and I can't wait to take you guys on this journey with me. On the drive down, once we got through the Homer Tunnel, we had to stop multiple times to stop the brakes from overheating. It was so bad that they were smoking at one point. Yeah boys, this is about the most scenic boat launch I think anyone could imagine. Any quick words for the camera captain Finn?
Oh, let's try and find some kingies and bluefin, eh?
Yeah mate.
Maybe a groper or two as well.
Yeah. We really wanted to go for bluefin tuna and kingies to start the day, but we realized pretty shortly we weren't going to be able to do that. This is because there were 5-meter swells once we got out the fjord. And there was also a whole lot of crayfish buoys over the kingfish spot, so we couldn't fish it effectively without risk of getting snagged up. Due to this, we decided to just target some puka for the rest of the day, so that we could just get a feed and hopefully get some good rest for the next day's fishing. Targeting puka in about 250 meters of water. But the crazy thing about Milford is that 250 meters of water is probably only about 250 meters from the shore. Yeah, I know, unbelievable. See, all those steep cliffs and mountains, they just keep going down into the water. And it makes an awesome fishing ground for these deep water species. Also because there's a layer of silt which is a few meters under the surface, which is caused by all the fresh water coming down from these waterfalls and out the rivers, all into the fjord. It's just a really unique fishery, and you can't really find anywhere else in the world that does this.
We can cross them. Yeah, You wanna grab? I can't do both. That's what we call a pussy baby. Oh yeah. Big boy.
On our way home, we decided to check out some scenery, so Finn took us down to Copper Point. It was sick. I mean, it's called Copper Point for a reason, and that's because when you look up at the rocks, you see all of this metallic copper color shining through the waterfall, and it's so cool.
Scraping the slime off the outside of the skin to reduce the chances of getting onto the meat. It's the bacteria that live on the outside of the fish that cause the meat to go off quite quickly. So if you can minimise how much of that you end up with on the meat, you can do a fair bit to increase how long it takes before the fish gets that so-called fishy flavour.
Do you reckon a fish like this would be, Finn?
When fishing for deep water species, it's really important to fish responsibly, or else you'll end up with a death pile on the back of your boat, meaning just a big pile of Hāpuku and blue nose. And that sounds like something you want, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to freeze lots of this beautiful fish, it's going to lose quality, and realistically, you're just taking more than you need. Here, this one fish, it fed us for 3 days, and we're a group of 4 men, and we were also feeding a couple of flatmates of fins. So that gives you an idea of the size of these fish. You really don't need to go overboard, and just make sure that you're only taking what you really need for a 2-week period at most. One thing you do have to worry about in Milford, guys, is the amount of sand flies, because they will demolish you constantly unless you're far out at sea. And yeah, I think we've fit the bill to demolish First, we cut the grouper into small chunks. Then we get our flour mix ready. We want to use self-rising flour for this. Two of my favorite spices to use for this dish are Cajun seasoning and garlic and herb salt. This is because they have a really good combination of flavors when they're together, and it gives the batter just a really nice kick. And you can even sprinkle a bit on the fish beforehand while you're seasoning it, though usually I'd only use salt and pepper for that section. You want to be really generous with the amount of seasoning you use, but you really don't want it to be too salty. That just isn't a good experience for anybody. On the other hand, when it comes to pepper, feel free to use as much as you like. My personal strategy is to just keep grinding until my wrists start to hurt. Next, you want to get your batter solution and mix it really thoroughly. So I just use a Tupperware and shake it really well until you see a pretty good consistency throughout the flour. After mixing, we want to apply our first coat of batter to the fish. So we're going to start putting pieces into the Tupperware and get ready to shake it up. To make sure that the batter really sticks to the fish, after our first coat, we want to prepare a solution of sriracha and beer, which we're going to dunk all of these pieces into. Once you've dunked the fish, make sure you put them to the side before putting them back into the batter, so that they're not just sitting there stagnant in the pit of flour. Because if that happens, it'll just get really big mashed pieces of essentially just flour and batter, which will be too hard to fry through before the fish is cooked. Once you've dunked all of the pieces from the batter box, you want to put them all back into the batter box really quickly so that you don't end up with any of those wet patches I was talking about, and then just shake away. Make sure to shake it quite hard, because this means that any of those gluggy pieces of batter get taken off the fish and get turned into almost breadcrumbs in the batter mix. Once you've got a really nice coating on there, it should look a little something like this. If you're pan frying instead of deep frying, you're going to want to position the fish quite carefully so that you have enough space to be able to flip them over when necessary. On the other hand, if you're deep frying, you can just chuck them all straight into the deep fryer and give the basket a shake every now and then. You're going to be away. Unfortunately, we didn't get a picture of the end product due to all the commotion and how hungry we were, but it was delicious, and the picture that we got here is the closest representation I could find to what it actually looked like. So if it ends up looking like that when you give this recipe a go, you're probably on the right track.